متروح لغيتها هل هونبر لميا لهي انكي لتاكو يوم لا كابري اس اوتروكا وتشيكي ونجي تروكا ونكيابو تشيبي ستونا وانا اناغبتنا كابي كي apetu waste da inskia na pe o chigl sababa chila. Le wo cheke ki we wa oyate wa o ki o yaka makawi choni ekigira ke onach leheri ki. Titaki ki chante yokshi chapikta. O yaka leheri ki wo cheke o gna Julie Pino Wexia watchingta. Dona takomne oyate ki yas lo lapi. The tribal officer, the hill washi chunka. Chia mitakuepi. No michi kumpo wochikwe wakahitlo. Tukashila wakhatka. Apete wa washtina wakha ash. Oyate ki chun detector. Oh, chante yokshi chapi ish. Chante shi chapi ko. Leche we atraka wa makawi choni ekignake. Oyeka tukashila. Chiwaye traki. Wichunki sapo chipi wochikle. We are oshika wa oke yuka oyateki etke skinche yuka. Wana wichone ekignake. Nanahiki omani ukakite tukashila. Apetikele tukashila we are kile. Ota ognanushna psache. Tagni uke apsne. Ishikta wa kapsne. Ash tukashila kile. We are ki. Le apetiki. Nahiki echa. Tukashila. Omani wa nierke kachiteka. Tukashila ushiki lapina ha. Yuchimia unkichi chupo. Na titake ki tiati ya kapike na. Ampetikele na chateshi chapike. Tukashila. Cha ampetikele. Niwakana wanshila hakicho. Nitro wanshila ushiki lapo. Washila apetiki. Cheoni chichapalo tukashila. Nokichi kumpo. Uzane po chipichi apetikele ke. Need ki otra ke woche ke leo kakapelo. Mitaki oyase. Oh.
Thank you, Lexi Dwayne Hollow Hornbear here. He did a quick prayer. As always, we open up with a prayer. We open up everything with a prayer, and he also, in remembrance of our late Rosebud Sioux Tribe secretary who passed away last night, Julie Pino, he said a quick prayer for her. I'd like to welcome everybody to our second podcast of the Wake Up Show. This is Lawrence Hyatt here at the Protector of the Sacred ANA grant program hidden down here at Lakota Language Preservation Project inside the child care building. We're inside another program. But we are here, and alongside me today, I got Lexi Dwayne Hollowhorn Bear. He was the one that was just speaking, did the quick prayer. And I also got with me today Savannah. Savannah will be coming up here to do some quick announcements. And then we also got Sunrise and Mallory around here somewhere. But we'll cut it to Savannah with some really, really quick announcements.
Hi, everybody. I want to send a shout out to Star, who is watching on YouTube. I have, sorry, just a second. One of the announcements is DPP, the Diabetes Prevention Program, is doing ribbon skirt making classes. They started yesterday, and they'll be doing that on Mondays and Wednesdays. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, if you don't know how to work a sewing machine, you could head up there and they will definitely teach you how to work and clean a sewing machine. But yeah, that is our first announcement.
Also, once again, we got Lexi Dwayne Hollowhorn Bear here. And I would just like to introduce him, and he also he could do an introduction of himself. I'm sure he's better at that than I would be. Actually, if
Oh,
you want to turn your camera on over there.
my camera. Do I really want to do that? All right. Aho, let me alone. Okay. Um, I've been in education for, geez, 35 years. Many of you might know me if you've ever taken classes at the Santiago State University. And I've been at St. Francis for a number of years, but for health reasons, I've kind of decided I need to slow down. And so, but I needed to keep doing something. So I come here to childcare to help out in language and whatever way that I can be an assistance. Also with other tribal entities that I can help in either the history, the culture, or in the language. So I'm here today to just basically talk about some concepts of our history, our culture. One of the important issues, I think, that if we've been taking notice, there's a lot of energy that's been going towards coming home. Wana unkupikre. We're coming home. Wana waku. I said, I'm coming home. This I'm coming home concept, idea, phrase, wana waku. Wana waku, we could always say this is I'm on my journey to relearning my culture, my history, my language, my spirituality, all the parts of who we are as Sichonko Lakota people, just to bits and pieces. We're not going to learn everything in a week, a month, a year, but it needs to become a life work. You know, our grandfathers talked about these things long time ago, saying, I kind of tend to talk to people about how I felt about what a prophecy was made years back, saying we will return again in 7 generations. And I always thought about that as we're going to come back again with a new weapon, a new way of life. And this weapon, this tool is education, and finding out who we are, getting an education so that we can be competitive, that we know the non-Indians' ways of language, the ways they speak, the way they write, the way they do things. But along with that, we have to bring along our ways, our history, our culture. And with that, we can always say, Wanawaku, I'm going to come home. I'm going to come home. I'm going to come back to my way of life, what my history tells me, what my culture tells me in these teachings. And in greeting one another, when we see each other, I see it and I feel it more often when I go to one of the grocery stores or the All Stop or wherever we go. People are starting to open up and greet each other, and handshakes and little hugs, and grandchildren, nieces, and it makes you feel so, so welcoming to be out in public when you got relatives out there. How do we greet each other? How do we greet each other? We just don't go by and just say hi, how? Stop and take a moment. Elders used to tell us all the time. My Uncle Albert used to always mention, saying, the greatest gift you can give is time of your own self. Even if it's just a moment of time as you go by and you see someone go over and shake their hands, or give them a hug, or cheer each other up, encourage each other. These ways of coming back, of our people getting to know each other, it used to be like that. And I feel strongly that we need to really come back to these ways of getting to know each other again. I remember as a young boy, my grandma used to go around, and whenever she greeted relatives out there, they would embrace, they would hug. And in fact, there would even be, if you hadn't seen someone for a long time, they would hold each other and there'd be a little crying. It wasn't sadness. It was happiness because I hadn't seen this relative for so long, and you're happy to see them. Those are happy tears, happy greeting. I see that around. I experienced that here and there. We go to one of the grocery stores or even public. When we go back to the Black Hills, encouraging. I'm home. When you go back to the Black Hills, and it's always that good feeling saying, "I'm coming home." Whenever we go to the hills, that's a place where you go home. You go home. Everybody gets to go home when you get into coming to the Black Hills. Even though we come from the Rosebud or the Cheyenne River, Standing Rock, or, Pine Ridge, everybody you greet up there, all of our people, everybody's coming home to re-energize each and every time you come into the hills. That's a part of coming home. So, but I'd share that much with you guys. It's good to be able to send a voice out here and see if I can encourage you people to come home. Come home. Greet your my phone. All right, thank you. Any questions? I'm going to be here for a while. Got any questions or comments? I'll be here for a while. Thank you.
That's Lexi, Dwayne, Hollowhorn. If you guys got any questions for him, go ahead and
post them up on our Facebook or YouTube. You will definitely hear them.
we're gonna go with our Lakota word, our phrase of the day. So Lexi, you got something for us that we can use today? Phrase or a word?
I think that's the one that I was talking about, just saying. Wanawaku. Wanawaku, I'm coming home now. It's a short little phrase, just Wanawaku, I'm coming home. And it's in all the aspects, not just going to the hills or going back to your home. Just use that phrase when you go by someone, say, Wanawaku, get people thinking, well, what do they mean? Start that as a random common phrase everywhere you go. And it's telling yourself and telling people, I'm coming back to my culture. I'm coming back to my way of life as a Lakota person. I'm coming home. I'm coming back. I think that's a little phrase that we can all pick up. Just see each other and see someone say, hi, Wanawaku. Yeah, I'm coming home. It's just
Wanawaku.
everywhere. You see, I'm coming home. I think it'd be neat to just see it catch on wherever you go. I'm coming home. As Lakota people, we need to come home. We were born Lakota, and we need to live and act as Lakota, and that's coming home. Learn about your culture, your traditions, the gatherings. Yesterday there was an awesome walk that came through town here. I'm not sure what that
MMIW.
MMIW, yes, even remembering the MMIW people. Just saying prayers, joining in here and there. It's all a part of it. Everything we do here in our homeland, it's a part of coming home. There's a question.
Yeah.
How was my journey? Where did I go? Was that for me?
The first one she's got here is that's from Star. She said, I can tell he's very wise. But she said, what do you think about mushrooms? Are they helpful on our path to journey? and right now we're harvesting morels.
I hear about these morals here and there, and honestly, I've never partaken in. I might have when I was younger, but I can't remember. Well, they say when you get this old, one of the first things to go is your mind.
They're big back. I'm from White River, and a lot of my cousins and stuff are harvesting them right now. Gotta wait till the ground gets to a certain temperature and they start coming up, but they're awesome fried up. And we got Mary Scott coming in here later to meet with us. She won't be on the podcast, but she'll be meeting with us, and she might actually take us out harvesting, looking for them. We can take you on your first moral hunt. I got a quick announcement that was just done last night. We picked the date for our annual Youth Appreciation Day, and that is going to take place on July 26th. So mark your calendars for July 26th. It's a Wednesday, and we are going to have a special guest. She's going to be hosting the event for us, and I can't give away a name yet, but she has agreed to come, and that'll be on July 26th. We're going to take a quick break and get some more input here, and we will be right back after this video.
second.
That was a quick video that we recorded last year with Lexi Russell and Ben Rod up at Welcoming Back the Thunders that takes place at Black Elk's Peak annually, and that's happens around the spring solstice. Again, this is Laurentide Jr. here with our the Wake Up Show podcast here from Protectors of the Sacred, alongside Lexi Dwayne Holloway Bear. And speaking of spring solstice, summer solstice, and our traditions and cultures on what we do, can you tell us where you're going this weekend on your upcoming trip and why?
Okay, but let's make a little correction there. What you mentioned on the solstice. Solstice happens twice a year. At the winter solstice, where the sun that comes up at the lowest point on the horizon, and then the summer solstice happens at the June 21st. Those are the solstices, and it's the longest day. Then the other two, the fall and the spring, those are the equinox. The equinox, like March 21st, when the sun will come up almost directly east of us. And that's when the journey, the pilgrimage is made to the highest, most beautiful mountain up in the Black Hills they say to welcome back thunder, but it goes way beyond that, because what did the journey, the stories that go with what do we do at Hihakahapaha, the journey, what does that reflect in our culture? Yes, we're welcoming back the thunder, but the winged ones are coming back. The winged ones are coming back. New life begins. Historically, the buffalo calves were being born, the little rabbits, all creation is starting new again. So in a sense, many people will look at this as the new year, the beginning of another year when new life begins. That is the Lakota year beginning. We didn't have this Gregorian calendar that we all follow now, where the Washichu tell us that January 1st is the new year. Our new year historically began at that spring equinox. A new beginning, new life begins following a 13-month calendar, 13 months, 13 moons that we followed. And the places that we go to, we've done two ceremonies. There's 4 prominent ceremonies that are done during the 4 months of springtime, like in March, when we went to Ihakakapaha, that ceremony, that is a spring equinox. Now we completed that one. Just a week or so ago, we completed the second one at Preshla. Before we go out to enjoy this new year, we're going to take a moment for those of us who had close ones, relatives, friends, relations that made their journeys home to the spirit world. Before we go to enjoy this year, we go up there. There's one large wiping of tears ceremony. So to not to grieve continually, for this relative who's gone home to the spirit world. The word they died or they're dead, that's so final. In Lakota concept, in our language, in our philosophy, we say they went home. They've gone home. They've gone home before us. So they've gone home back to the spirit world. And so, but as humans, we're allowed this, we have these emotions that we seem to be plagued with. We're sad, we're lonely, we're angry, we're lonesome. All of these emotions that we go through every day. And one is this grieving. where we become so accustomed to grieving these memorials that we hold on to the memories too close of relatives whose physical beings have returned back to Mother Earth. And then we turn to the spirit. The spirit never dies. The spirit is making its journey back to the spirit world, and we still can connect with that spirit. We carry those relatives in our hearts and in our minds and our memories. When we want to remember them, we bring those forth, and we can share them if we'd like to. It's I always felt that in our old traditional ways, we never announce the name of that relative again once they made their journey home. So I believe we need to come back from that grieving, constantly grieving, carrying memories. It used to be sad. I made that mention years back saying, this is the fourth annual memorial baseball tournament, basketball tournament. We're still having these memorials, these memories, when we should be looking forward, ahead to those that we have with us alive, our young ones, our children that are in schools, our grandchildren, those relatives who've gone home are in a good place. We don't need to worry about them and be memorializing, having memorials over them. We need to look forward, ahead, and coming home. And we're going to be there one day. One day we're going to be with those relatives again. And so we need to live our lives here as Lakota. The journeys we make to Preshla to let that grieving go so we can enjoy this year. This is what we do at Preshla. And the next one, in fact, this coming weekend, I'm going to be making a journey. We're doing a little documentary, Mitapi, that you're going to be able to see this coming fall. It's going to be on PBS. It talks about the language and the importance of our language and what we've been through. We can't just be looking back and blaming boarding school or blaming the white man. We have to blame our own selves for not learning it, not having the will to learn it, to take that initial step to saying, I'm going to set my goal to relearn my language. This is who I am. And there's so many ways that we can do this. So the Silk documentary is going to portray some of the language losses and the gatherings and the initiatives that are happening here and there all over our homeland to rekindle our language and bring it back out into the open again, greeting each other. We're gonna this this weekend to Iaka, the dormant volcano that's on the northwest side of the Black Hills. It was a place that years ago in our history that people would go and they would gather stones there. They would gather stones, there'd be a large encampment there, and the delegates would take these stones up to Matkotipila, today referred to as Devil's Tower. And there was a one annual Sundance that was happening up there. And that would be the fourth and final step in May and June. In May, it's going to be the one for Iakaha, the rock-making mountain. So we'll be going there, gathering stones, and then in June, at the summer solstice, the fourth ceremony is Matkotipila. We don't all have the opportunity to participate anymore at one large Sundance at Matkotipila. But we could gather stones there and bring them home to our respective Sundances. And we do this and we open our Sundance with a few of the seven of the rocks from Iakaha. We conduct our Sundance ceremony, And then we will close our ceremony after 12 days with 7 rocks from Iyankaha. So in spiritual way, this is how we would do it. But the Sundance up at Matotipila, that one annual, that hasn't been happening for some time. I know in the past there's been families who've had a Sundance or two up there in the past years here, but not too many people. I never had the opportunity to travel up there. If it should happen again, you know, it's coming home. That's another one. Is Wanawatu. I'm coming home back to these ways. It's our spiritual. We've never separated our spiritual way of life from any aspect of our lives, and so we got to bring our spiritual way with us along with everything else too. So those are parts of the documentary that we're going to be filming in little pieces. So we go up there and we're going to talk about those locations and to maybe tell a story or two about that location and Matotipila. So that's going to be coming up this coming fall sometime. It'll be on PBS. Hello.
And you guys started recording that about the time our program started up, correct? That we're at Language Forum over in St. Francis.
Yeah, well, we had this, we were beginning this immersion school, Wexia. Wexia is, I remember, started that language program there with the grant, and I wanted to title Wexia because I want to remember. I want to remember these words. I want to remember these phrases. I want to remember this way of talking, this way of communicating. And this is what we wanted to instill in these little ones. Wexia. Oh, Wexia. Yeah, I remember. Hopefully to trigger our people's memories and these little short phrases that we can share with each other, teachings, our ways of life in Lakota. So we need to remember. The word remember talks about that, you know. Re is to bring things back together. Member is those aspects of our culture, of our language, of our spirituality, all those members of who we are. Re is to bring all of those back together, to put these members back together again. So that, in a sense, again, that's coming home. Akewaku, I'm coming home. I'm remembering these parts of my culture that I'm going to. If I don't know about it, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna pay attention, and I'm gonna learn about it. So, Anakoptapo. So listen up. They're coming. We're making a lot of steps forward. Not only this program, but there's other initiatives around the homeland that are kind of pushing these things of remembering, and bringing home the culture. Hello.
That is big. We're definitely making a push towards that. And while you were talking about your trip this weekend, you kind of hit on some other things, and it reminds me of conversations that we have in here every day. You talked about how our people, our society right now, we're kind of in that mourning phase to where we're always we kind of put ourselves in like a
Grieving state.
grieving status, and we're kind of in bad moods, and we're going backwards all the time. Remembering, and those our ancestors, our relatives are still there with us spiritually. How can we, if we're not putting on a flyer or a t-shirt or something, what are better healthy ways for us to remember our relatives that have passed?
The ones that have gone home before. I guess in small circles, we can bring their memories alive, talking about them, not bringing them up in big, large names. There was a time when there was a road run that was going to happen, and they wanted to attach my mother's name to it. I asked them not to. I says, I don't want my mother's name broadcast or put up on posters. I said, I have my memories of my mother. if I want to share those memories, then I'll do it in small circles with those who are her family, or you can go visit her families and saying, "This is who I remember." Yesterday I had this same incident that we're talking about here. We're putting in this garden, and these young men that came over with these guys to help me to dig the holes for my fencing. And this young man, I thanked him. I wanted to pay them, but they wouldn't accept the money. But I shook hands with them, and they told me who they were. And this young man, his grandmother used to be the one that used to work at Rosebud Elementary, and she was a teacher there. And I remember my daughter, who went to Rosebud Elementary, she used to come to our house to pick her up every day. She never missed work, so my daughter never missed school. And the young man said, "Yep, that was Grandma." So I met him, and I thanked him for coming out there to give me a helping hand. It's one of the things little things like that. When you meet the family members of that, they tell you you find out which family lineage they are, and then you could bring up someone's name that you remember, making that connection with this individual you're talking with, saying, "Yeah, I knew your uncle. I knew your grandma. I met you." Then you make those connections and talking about how you knew this person. And privately, those are good memories. It's a good way of sharing with family members. And so I told this young man, I knew your grandmother. She was a good woman. And that was a good little conversation. It wasn't very long, but it was very positive. Kind of made you feel good that, I remember this grandmother through, now her grandson carries the memories, how she impacted my life, and my children's life. I think those are good ways of just greeting each other and acknowledging, relationships with their family. And it gets to coming around to, wow, I'm related to so many people. You find that we're relatives. Some of us are distant relatives to each other. We're all one people.
Just taking notes here. Like another question. Until you talked about how we kind of live in that grieving status, but we also for our youth, kind of switching gears up here, and I'm going to throw another question at you. But for our youth, we see them out there. A lot of times we see them not doing the right thing or getting in trouble. And I'm going to ask you for some advice here, but we see them out there, and that's not really their fault. They're kind of raised in our society that we're kind of putting them in this position, kind of like almost like a survival type deal. You got to do what you got to do to eat. Is there any advice that you would like to give to parents, people my age? Because it's kind of our generation that made that happen, actually, because we're too busy doing other things instead of raising our children. So now we got all these youth coming up with looking for guidance, and we need people like you to guide us and to give us advice, and we really need to open up our ears. So just I know that's a tough thing to ask of you, but if you have
No, it's not tough at all. It's just, I think you would be that role model of what you've done, and others, so many others have done this. Like when you brought your little daughter in here, and you brought your son in, you introduced me to them. You introduced them to me, and you told them, "This is Grandpa." And so what we can do as parents and grandparents is start telling our young people that relative, that's a relative to you. That's so and so. You're related to them by this way. And so you'd ask them, go shake hands with them. I used to wonder how long ago my mother, if she had a a book or something where she had written down all of these relationships that one day I was going to inherit, so I could figure out who was related to who I was all related to. And as I grew older, I realized all those were in her memory. She knew all the relatives, all the people, and she would introduce me to them as a relative. And she would tell them, "This is your nephew. This is your grandson." Introduce them and introducing me to them. So I think we could do this to our young people again, is that making that relationship, introducing them to each other. And well, that's your cousin. That's a relative. Making those relationships and just building. I think that's being a role model, like what you've done when you brought your children over. That's happened to me so many times. People would bring their little ones to me. Who is this one? Like Savannah over there, and I said, "Who is this here?" And she told me about her daughter and her name, Sweetgrass. And I said, "Oh, Wachacha." So that's the Lakota name for her Lakota name. We make that connection. So now I know who these children are. So that's a part of it. You make those young ones feel good about who they are and welcoming them, making sure that they belong. Yeah, you're my nephew. Your uncle so-and-so. I know your uncle. Says, "You're my nephew. You're my grandson." Making that connection with them. So these young men that came over to help me yesterday, I knew them both from their families, from their grandparents. I was related to one from the grandmother's side, from the Goodchild side. I said, wow, it's all these young people, a lot of them are related to me. So when I was working at the school, that's how I would address all. There are many who didn't know me. I'm your grandfather, and I'm going to speak to you as a grandfather. So we make that connection. Those who want to accept, we can't force them, but those who want to accept you as that grandfather, they'll come and return the favor, return the same greeting. Those are those connections.
You touched you touched on your ancestry with your mother, your family tree. Do you think that would help our young ones to, like you and Sunrise went through a genealogy one day on their? It was really amazing how far back, and you get to see who your relatives are. Do you think it would help our youth to go through something like that, to do their family tree? Because you see the great chiefs from our past, Spotted Tail, your grandfather. You see that, and a lot of our young ones are probably related to these guys, and it just kind of gives you a sense of power, of like to know where you actually came from. I know people say, "Remember where you came from," and it's just kind of a saying, but when you actually think about it and you see that in front of you, like this chief was your relative, it kind of instills a sense of power in you.
Yeah, it just tells you I belong. I belong. I have relatives. I know where I come from. Knowing that these younger people knew exactly where they come from, not just the sad parts of it. Maybe that's why some don't want to learn it, because of all of the hardships that many have had to endure, with the negativism that a lot of people had to go through just to survive. My own family was like that. When my own father, there's times when I was, in a sense, disappointed, and didn't feel like I wanted to belong because of me witnessing things. But I realized that I went back to my father. I told him, I said, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here in this world. And I says, come on, let's go home. And I brought him back. But my mother, she said, son, me and your father, we were finished with each other back in relocation when we went to Chicago. When we look back at some of the history of how we became what we came through, when they legalized alcohol to our people in 1954, and many of our males or men folk that fell into that and really became abusive towards families and spouses. That happened in my family, and sadly we left him out there and came home. But when I brought him back, my mom says, in her compassion, she says, "You can sleep on the living room floor for 3 nights, but you got to find someplace else to live for him because him and I were done long ago." And I understood that, but he stayed around. He stayed around. I wanted to build that relationship back with him. It was hard. It was hard. I guess my Washichu mind kept wanting to hear him say, "I'm sorry for not being there. I'm sorry for the way I was when I was." And I never heard him say it. And I carried that anger. My uncle, after at his funeral, he says, "How you doing?" So I got angry and I said, "He didn't say it. He left before he said it." I said, "What? Who?" I said, "Him." My sisters were all wailing and crying at the funeral, but I wanted to hear him say, "I'm sorry." And, my uncle, in his profound wisdom, he pulled over to the side of the road and he looked at me and he says, he said, "Your dad lived in a time period when there was no room for sorry. Yes, he made some decisions and he didn't always make the best ones. Don't you even think that he might have regretted some of those decisions?" But me and my anger and my ego, I guess, said, I wanted to hear him say it. He said, "You're being selfish." We had a long talk about this. And later on, I guess I came to my senses and I spent time out in the Sundance Circle and I told the people out here in the next 4 days, if you see me go down, you see me break down and cry, fall down, leave me alone. I'm going to spend these days and I'm going to deal with his spirit. I got to let him go. And that's the way I had to do it. But so many of us, we like I said, when I was carrying that type of anger, when we look back to realizing where we come from, wasn't the influences that my father faced that got him into his situation in life. We have the power to say, "No, that's not what I want. That's not who I am." Our youth need to hear that and say, "That's not who you are. Those negative things that are going to hurt you, they're going to hurt your future. You're going to start a family. It's going to look into your future, to those kids that you possibly may bring into this world. How are you going to influence them in this negative way? You're going to really, really hurt them." So those are things that we need to start talking to our youth about, saying, "You're responsible for your future, for your children's future. If you bring children into this world, how are you going to influence them? What are you going to show them? What do you want them to be? You got to, in some ways, live what you want them to be." And there's a lot that we can do to help these young ones. Not just talking at them. We got to listen to them. Let them talk. Let them, I've never said that to my children, "Be quiet or shut up. I don't want to hear it." Maybe it wasn't important to me, but it could have been important to them. And so I would listen to them. Let them talk. And so I do that around my grandchildren now at the dinner table. We're talking about things I know nothing about in this day and age. But one was talking about satires, and I knew that because when I was in school, we did satires. And so we had a little conversation about that. And now there's, something interesting happening right now. There's a Native American woman from this reservation here who's made it on Broadway, and she's doing these satirical comedies about Thanksgiving. I think that's on air. I think we need to look at her. What is her name? Larissa Fast Horse. She's on Broadway, and she's doing these satires on what Thanksgiving meant to the Native people. It'd be interesting. I haven't seen it. I just read about it on the internet, and it's coming. So here's one of our own that's kind of gone forward now and is doing something with her life. So show those. I asked my eighth grade student granddaughter, I said, tell your teacher about her. Bring it up online and show the students. You know, you're talking about satires. Here's a satire comedy. I said, bring it up and show it to the students in school. So it's you can find things like this to share with the youth and let them start talking about it. Say, I got to do that. I want to do that. You know, two extremes in my life that this mind, this powerful mind that we all have, that I accomplished. One was my journey from Rome to the Vatican to have an audience with Pope John Paul II back in the year 2000. And in the same year of 2000, getting on MTV. Two extremes. Well, how can you do that? Two extremes. Then people, how do you do that? I said, this. I willed it. I wanted to do it. So we got to guide our youth in the right way, saying, if you believe in it, if it's good, something you can do, believe in yourself and go do it. Go do it. Come home. Makuela.
Excellent words, Lexi. Thank you very much. We're so lucky to have you here almost daily for your wisdom and your great advice. And that was above and beyond what I expected for an answer. Thank you very much.
Aho.
We got Savannah here, and she's just flipping quarters over there, looking bored. She's got a whole lot to say, and she keeps pitching me, thinking that we left her out. We did not. We
That's
got Savannah.
rolling her eyes.
Yeah, rolling her eyes at us and stuff.
I said, whatever.
At least she's talking to you today, like the other day I walked in and they were all ignoring you.
Giving me the silent treatment.
Oh, Savannah, we're waiting on you.
My camera's on. It's on. I'm not showing up.
Yeah, it's on. I can hear you though.
Okay. So we thank you, Lexi, for all of your knowledge and all of your wisdom. We really appreciate you for sharing that with us. Today I have Mallory here, and we're gonna share some news. She has the weather update right now.
So today, March 3rd, is going to be 79 degrees with 16 mile per hour winds. Tomorrow, it'll be 78 degrees. Doesn't look like there's going to be any wind. Friday, there is 50% chance of rain, and it'll be 63 degrees. Saturday, another 50% chance of rain and 66 degrees. Also, today is Lawrence Ike's 65th birthday.
No, I think it's the 75th birthday.
Oh, yeah, 75, the big 75. Sunday, it'll be cloudy with highs of 67 degrees. Monday, cloudy again with the highs of 66 degrees. Next Tuesday will be cloudy with the highs of 65. Wednesday, cloudy again with highs of 65. Next Thursday will be 40% chance of rain and 69 degrees. So that is a weather report on our local weather here in Rosebud, South Dakota.
Yay, thank you for that weather report, Miss Neil. Just a reminder, diabetes prevention program will be doing ribbon skirt making classes on Mondays and Wednesdays, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays they'll be offering their sewing machine classes to learn how to operate and clean a sewing machine. And I have a couple of
MMIW parade on Friday.
What?
The MMIW parade on Friday.
Oh yeah, there's a MMIW parade on Friday, starting at the tribal building, and they'll be going down to the fairgrounds at the Powell Grounds. And we have some native news update too. The 2023-2024 Miss Indian World was crowned, and her name is Tori McConnell from York and Crook Tribes of Northwest California. So yay, congratulations to her. And a shout out to our very own Miss Indian World 2022-2023 Miss Indian World, Tashina Red Hawk. Thank you for all that you have done to represent the Sichango Uyate and the Ochipi Shakoni. And they're still doing community cleanup in all of your communities. So there's nice weather, so please get out there and do your part and take care of our communities.
If you have Dallas Cowboys jerseys, now's a good time to get rid of them. What?
Oh, and a little reminder of our Lakota word of the day is Wana Waku. Remember to greet your relatives with that phrase. Let them know we're coming back, we're coming home.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in to our very second podcast, The Wake Up Show. This is Lawrence Aya Jr. on behalf of Savannah, Mallory, Chief Dwayne Hollowhorn Bear, and Sunrise was around here. So for tuning in, and we will see you guys next Friday. What is next Friday's date? Next Friday, it would be the 12th. The 12th. We'll see you then. Thank you very much.